And Derek, she says she's getting her profile logged in right now. So should
Excellent.
be hopefully just a few minutes.
Thank you. Okay. Looks like we are streaming, so we will go ahead and begin this meeting. Thanks for your patience as we dealt with some technical issues. This is the regular meeting of the Electronic Records Working Group. It is July 3rd at 10:06 a.m. We're meeting via Teams and YouTube Live. I'll go ahead and start with the roll call. When I say your name, please unmute and say here followed by your agency. Still seems to be the simplest way to do this. So I will read you off. Glenn McNich.
Here, and I am formerly KDLA.
Tracy Burgess.
COT here.
Chris Justice.
Chris Justice representing Jennifer Frazier from Monroe State Law Library.
Lynn McCroskey.
Here, COT.
Jeremy Foster.
Here, Secretary of State's office.
Jenny Link.
Here, KCTCS.
Rob Hill.
Here, KDLA.
Christopher Thacker.
Here, Attorney General's office.
And Shamara Jackson. Having some audio issues. I didn't hear you come through, even though you unmuted, Shamara. Well, we see that you are here, so if you want to work on the microphone or maybe just the volume, I'm not sure what could be. Well, you can go ahead and work on that. If you need to interject, you can use the chat. That seems to have worked in the past with members, but by all means, keep working on it if you need to. We are also joined today by KDLA staff, Drew Preston, Catherine Giles, Elena Gollihue, Sarah Garrett, Heath Reynolds, and Becca Hallmeyer. And we are waiting for one of our guests, hopefully is in here and not Teams. But we will go ahead and begin with agenda item 1, which is the approval of the May 1st, 2024 meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them, and were there any issues or anything missing you'd like to bring to our attention? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, all in favor, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, no opposed, I take it. All right, we will consider those approved, and then I will move on to announcements. I was going to make sure they were very brief, but as we're waiting for our guest, I don't feel quite the pressure. So here we go. Obviously, we have a new member in our group here, so I would like to welcome Mr. Christopher Thacker from the Attorney General's office. He's also serving on the State Libraries, Archives, and Records Commission, so we're very happy to have him. He's replacing Mark Manley, who moved on to another agency. So thanks for attending, Christopher, especially under such late notice. I know I got to that pretty late.
Thank you.
KDLA news, we have a new local records branch manager, Drew Preston, who's in this meeting. Was formerly the South Central Regional Administrator. and he recently became the local records branch manager as of June 16th, I believe. So welcome to him. We're very happy to have that position filled. We also in local government have made a recent change, and we are sure it is for the better. What I'm showing you now is we used to have 4 local regions, and now we have moved to 5, and we'll be adding a 5th regional administrator. And KDLA believes that having an additional region with 5 different regional administrators will help them focus on the customer service, the records management, advisement. So we're very happy that that's going to happen. As you can see, 2 are vacant, the new region and the region that Drew just exited, but we'll be working on filling those very quickly. So this is brand new stuff just added to the website. So we're very happy to be able to improve our services to local government. And then June 11th, the Kentucky Digital Government Summit was held in Lexington. And this was my first year on the advisory board. So, of course, one of the concurrent sessions was electronic records management training. Seemed like a great venue for that, and ended up being a very positive experience. We received a lot of good feedback. So hopefully we have that or a again, or a more specific focused one in future years. So it was well received, and the comments we got were, thank you for this practical, actionable advice that we can go and do. And it wasn't purely theoretical. Though it is theoretical, it was actionable. So we were happy to do that. When I say we, I mean myself and Sarah Garrett, our analyst. So thanks to her, she worked very hard on the training. So that was great. And that is all I have for announcements. And we can move on to the next agenda item, which is new business. We can see on the agenda, we'll be discussing our guidelines documents and have a presentation coming. But is there any new business anyone would like to introduce for this meeting?
Well, while we're waiting, and we might have touched on this before, where it's not really won't be able to do a presentation on it because it's all on the back end, but where all summons going out of the Secretary of State's office, we get all summons that go out of the state. So it's around 40 to 50,000 a year. And we just went live last month with AOC, where we now electronically receive all that information into our databases. So we just print it off. In the past, it used to have to come to us through certified mail, but now all summonses that are e-filed, which is about 70% in the state, are now coming to us electronically, and we're just shipping them out. And then all the returns are going straight back to AOC electronically. So we're not dealing with paper, green cards, none of that anymore.
Oh, excellent.
But I said I could do a presentation, but a lot of it's just coding on the back end and APIs and things. So.
Well, that's good to hear. That should streamline the process for sure, and
oh, definitely
print as much, if at all. And yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, so that's exciting for us. We've been working on that. We started working on it about 10 years ago, but I just did not have the development staff to make it happen. But yeah, we've been working on it about a year and a half now, and it's live now. And we can see Jonna and Rodney. I can't hear her though.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Sorry I'm late.
That's quite all right. We appreciate you making time this morning. We understand that you have a presentation for us.
I do. Hold on one second.
Yeah, let me make sure you can share your screen if needed.
Yeah, hold on one sec.
You see him drive.
Sorry, guys.
Can you guys hear us now?
We can.
Okay, great. All right, so let me see, Rodney, if I can share my screen. Let me make sure.
Go back to your Zoom. Click on the Zoom and go
We had to do some creative finagling over here.
share screen.
Okay, here we are.
And you're going to share that one. Right. This one here. That's the application.
Okay. Can you guys still hear me and also see the PowerPoint? Great. Okay. Thanks, Rodney. I will go ahead and get started if that's okay with everybody.
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Jonna Ballinger. I am in the records section of the Office of Business Services in the Secretary of State's office. And this is going to be an introduction to our e-Apostille program. And I'm going to start with just describing a little bit about apostille authentication and what that is. So an apostille authentication is a certification of an official signature on a public document for use in a foreign country. So Kentucky public documents can be apostillized or authenticated by the Kentucky Secretary of State. We are a designated competent authority under the Hague Convention on legalization of foreign documents. So public documents basically are a public record that's on file with a public agency. It can also be personal records that have been notarized. When something is notarized, it does become a public document for these purposes. And so we are able in this office to directly certify the signature of the State Registrar of Vital Statistics and also signatures of current Kentucky county clerks and deputy clerks. We are also under the current notary law that became effective in January of 2020. We're able to certify the signature of notary, the electronic signature, I should say, of notaries who are authorized to perform electronic notarial acts. And then I would make a note that to the extent that we're able to maintain signatures of other state officials, we could expand the type of signatures that we're able to certify. For instance, we reached out to the Department of Transportation to facilitate apostillizing driver records directly. So we also have captured the signature of the person in that agency that certifies driving records. This helps people in a foreign country to get a foreign driver's license. This is a little bit about the authority that we have to certify official signatures. I mentioned the notary statute, specifically KRS 423.450, states that for documents notarized in paper format, they have to be signed by a notary public with a handwritten signature, and those signatures have to be certified by the county clerk. Our office then would certify the county clerk, and that would be the issuance of the apostille or authentication. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit. But for tangible records, that means that first you have to get your document notarized. An example of this is a power of attorney for selling property in another country. So the power of attorney would be notarized by a Kentucky notary, and then the county clerk, where that notary is registered, would certify that notary. Then the document can be submitted to us. And these typically are done in paper format. And until recently, that was the only way you could do it. Now, for documents that are notarized electronically, they are electronic documents, PDFs, that are notarized electronically by a notary that has been authorized to do that. The Secretary of State can certify that directly. So this really cuts down on the steps in the process. Someone who has an electronically notarized document can now submit that to us electronically. And I'll get to that a little bit more in just a minute. I just would note that we also maintain the signature of the Kentucky State Registrar. We can certify or authenticate, apostolize birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates that come directly from the state registrar. These cannot be done electronically. There are security measures, security paper that would prevent you from scanning these and submitting them. So we only still accept these by paper. So I wanted to make a note about certified copies that come from KDLA. We've seen these in the past for sometimes people who they are trying to get marriage records of their grandparents or great grandparents, sometimes for citizenship purposes in foreign countries. We've received them from KDLA where they're a certified copy. That's the only place they could be found. They don't have them on record at Vital Statistics. The county clerk doesn't have them. So those have to be notarized. And we've seen in the past that KDLA couldn't notarize them. So the affiant has to apply an affidavit saying it's a true copy, have their signature notarized, then have the county clerk, et cetera, et cetera. So we would be happy to work with KDLA on maybe expanding our ability to directly apostolize those documents. Move into electronic notarial acts real quick. These are specific to electronic records. You can't electronically notarize a tangible document. So the way electronic notarial acts work is that there is a technology platform. We have a list of registered providers on our website. So the technology platform basically offers the service to the notary, where there's a meeting room, both the notary and the signer appear before each other through audio video technology, has to be recorded. There are standards for the notary to maintain the recording. The notary must apply their electronic signature with an electronic stamp and what's called a digital certificate. And the digital certificate is a piece of software that renders that document tamper evident. So once a digital certificate has been applied, and you all may already know about digital certificates, if that document is altered in any way, it will be evident in the digital certificate, in the record details. And I've just jotted down here the standards for electronic notarial acts without going into detail. You can look at those in KARIS Chapter 423 and also the Regulation 30 KAR 8005. And y'all feel free to stop me if anybody has any questions. I'm not very good at Zoom, so if you raise your hand, I might not see it, but yell at me. So I mentioned that there has to be registration for electronic notarial acts. Both the technology provider and the notary must register with us. So when we register a technology provider, we do a demonstration with them where they show us what their platform looks like, what technology they're using. We make sure that what they're doing meets regulatory and statutory standards. And if it doesn't, we won't allow them to register until they make some changes so that it does. And all the technology providers have been very cooperative, and we've ensured that a notary who uses that platform is going to be meeting all of the standards. The notary public, you have to be a notary public first, and you can register with the Secretary of State to perform these by first partnering with a technology provider to establish an electronic signature, electronic stamp, and digital certificate. And then they have to submit all of that to us electronically through our website. And we will examine that. make sure that everything that we need is there, and approve that notary. Once the notary is approved with an approved technology provider, then their notarial acts that are done electronically can now be submitted to us. Okay. Okay, so a little bit on the issuance of apostille and authentication. And we say apostille, that is the French pronunciation. It's a French word. We hear a lot of different pronunciations, and that's okay. We know what people are talking about. So there's a model certificate issued by the Hague Convention, or recommended by the Hague Convention, and we've recently adopted that. It's both an apostille and authentication now look the same. If the country that you're submitting this to is a signatory to the Hague Convention abolishing the requirement for legalization of foreign public documents, then that's the last step. But you submit it directly to the consulate or the embassy that you're working with. If it's a non-signatory country, then that document most likely will have to be sent to the U.S. Department of State for further authentication. And both our certificate of apostille looks exactly the same for tangible records as it does for electronic records, except for some of the outside of the box language for the electronic document indicates it was issued in electronic format. Now, that can still be printed. In fact, if it has to be sent to the U.S. Department of State, they have not yet implemented acceptance of electronic records. So you would have to print that to send it to the U.S. Department of State, which a little bit defeats some part of that purpose, but we're hoping that the U.S. Department of State will implement that ability soon. When someone requests an e-apostille, well, let me back up 1 second. When you request a tangible apostille, you have to mail that document to the Secretary of State with a request form, or you can bring it in person and we can do it while you wait. For an e-apostille, we have developed a submission system on our website where the applicant or the requester would enter all of the information manually that we need, their contact information, their email address, because we're going to return this by email. And they would upload a PDF that has been electronically notarized. It has to have the digital certificate attached. Now, there's some, we've made it as easy as we can on our side. You can even just drag and drop it from your desktop, or you can upload it. And the notes here, I've got the Allonge. The Allonge is our certificate. So when we process these electronically, our Crack IT team has really done a great job. We simply review the document, make sure that it's not deficient, make sure everything we need to see is there, and the system attaches and a first page of the PDF. So we're actually adding a page to the PDF, and that is the Allonge, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. The PDF is then secured with a digital certificate issued to the Secretary of State. So we have our own digital certificate that goes on this document, which renders it tamper evident. And then there's a fee of $5, which is also paid electronically. Of course, if for any reason the document cannot be apostillized, we'll send the requester an email outlining the deficiency, and it'll cancel the fee. They can submit again after they've corrected it. And we get these done pretty quickly. We say 3 to 5 business days. We're generally even faster than that. When we receive them, we can sometimes get them out the same day. We don't guarantee that, but that's the reality. I think I've already mentioned most of this. The digital certificate renders the document tamper evident. It is required by statute and regulation for notarial acts with respect to electronic records. And it has to be issued by a third-party certificate authority. You cannot use a Adobe self-signing digital certificate. And again, I think I've already mentioned, when we issue an e-apostille, the digital certificate of the Secretary of State is applied. And this is what it looks like. This is also what the tangible document looks like without the blue line at the top. That's actually where you're going to see the digital certificate. And I'll show you that also. But the apostille, that box that you see, everything inside that box is Hague Convention required. The language outside the box is optional. And without making that larger, that outside the box language explains it explains that this document is an apostille only for countries that are signatory to that convention that I mentioned. And if the country you're sending it to is not a signatory, you may need to send this to the State Department. This outside the box language also tells you that you can validate the issuance of an apostille on our website. And it also says, in this case, that this document was issued in electronic format. And this shows you the digital certificate. What has happened here is you click on the signature panel at the top right corner of the document, and it opens the digital certificate security details. You can see in this document the path, the root path, which is in that white panel to the left of that little gray box. This digital certificate was issued to the Secretary of State. So that's kind of how you validate a digital certificate. We have added some additional security measures for the verification of an e-apostille. If you look at our website and you have an e-apostille or an apostille or e-apostille in your hand, you would see a unique number that you would go to our website and enter that number, and it will tell you, yes, the Secretary of State issued this document. If it's an e-apostille, you can further upload that document to our website. There's an algorithm that our IT team has created or used to perform a hash comparison of the uploaded file. That hash comparison is going to tell you if the document has been changed in any way. What we found during testing was that you can manipulate a PDF, even a locked PDF. You can manipulate it. You can sort of fake it. But this hash comparison, which I'm not sure if we're the only state that uses this, but it's pretty unique and we're very proud of it. It will tell you if anything's been changed, even if one pixel of the document has changed. And that's how you would verify that electronic record is genuine. It is genuinely the one that was apostillized by the Secretary of State. I'm nearing the end of my presentation, and this is just a note on the future of e-apostille and electronic records from our point of view. We've really been kind of leading the way in e-apostille. I've been made aware of some other states that have limited pilot programs. As I mentioned, the State Department hasn't done this yet. Several other countries are doing it. I've learned recently, even since I created this PowerPoint, that some other states are pushing out more pilot programs. Some of them are trying to offer the e-apostille, but through my research, we seem to be the only state that you can find it easily on the website and can submit one. We hope that the U.S. State Department can soon implement the e-apostille. We believe that the possession of an electronic record, you can save it to a hard drive or the cloud. We believe that's more reliable than and portable than a paper document. Paper documents can easily be lost or damaged, and they're gone. And this having these records facilitates personal matters, adoption, marriages, also international business transactions. So it's a really important development. And we think that state agencies, we hope that state agencies would consider issuing electronic certified copies. If the Vital Statistics Office could issue electronic certified copies, then we would be able to do an e-episteme on those documents as well. And also other agencies that want to put a signature on file with the Secretary of State would help. And we're open to that. We don't really have the manpower to collect every official signature in Kentucky and maintain it and keep it updated as they change. But if some particular agency was interested in doing that, we would be open to that. And that's the end of my presentation. Open to any questions. And I'm going to figure out how to get back to my Zoom meeting, I think.
Yeah, at the top of the screen where you see some information, it should see an option that says stop sharing.
Aha. Ha. I think I'm sorry, you guys. I don't do this very often, you can tell. I do more in-person presentations. Did anyone have any questions? I know I kind of maybe went through it a little fast.
I do have
But
a question.
I can also send this PowerPoint to any of you and all of you if you like.
That was one of my questions is if you send it to me, I can route it to everyone that was.
Okay, sure. Happy to do so.
I had a question. Is there any sort of list of platforms or technology providers that have already been approved? Because I know you
Yes.
mentioned, yeah.
On our website, which is just sos.ky.gov, there is a notary commission section, and there you'll find the list of technology providers, and it's gotten, I think we've got 26 or 7 of them now. For a long time, we only had 1 or 2, but it's growing. So there are quite a few. We recommend to notaries that they look at them all, as many as they can tolerate looking at, because each one of them is going to have a different price structure for the notary. Some of them can be quite expensive, I've been told. We don't vet that part of it. We only vet the technology.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
This is Glenn McIninch, formerly KDLA. And I wondered about kudos to the Secretary of State for everything you've done. It's very
We're really excited about it.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I wondered about the future and whether or not voter registration, for example, or some other areas that are under the Secretary of State's control or managed by the Secretary of State, if that's something that e-signature would apply to.
Well, I know that in our business filings office, we have thoughts of issuing, and I can't speak too much on this. I'm not the supervisor of that section, but I would happily work with them on the possibility of issuing electronic certificates of existence or electronic certified copies of business records, electronic certified copies of UCC. We definitely have those thoughts in mind. I couldn't speak to the election stuff. I'm not in that section. But for the business office, we certainly want to use our digital certificate more. We pay for it for a certain number of years. I think it's got a certain number of transactions. I'm not sure. But we would probably not near that number, even if we started issuing those other documents electronically. But yeah, that's definitely in the works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Glenn, I can touch on a little bit about the voter registration that's been implemented, and that's actually not through us. It's technically through the State Board of Elections. And you can actually register to vote online right now already and do your digital signature on there.
Well, if that's all, nobody has any questions, I will forward that PowerPoint to you. And thank you all for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to share this with all of you.
And I did make a note when you mentioned possibly streamlining the notarization process for KDLA issued copies. So I'll reach out about that.
Okay, that'd be great. I'm happy to work with you in any way on that.
Yeah.
We don't see those documents too often, but every now and then that's the only place somebody can get the record.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. And again, if anyone has any questions later on after you've thought about this for a little bit, Jonna, they're free to email you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you get the PowerPoint, it'll have my contact information on that last screen as well. So yeah, reach out, give me a call, give me an email, whatever you like.
All
Okay.
right. Well,
If
thank
I
you.
figure out how to leave here, I'll go ahead and leave. I think Heather's going to come help me. Oh, that's easy.
Yeah. All right. Next agenda item is the electronic signature record keeping guidelines. Now I'm going to share my screen. I sent out a Word copy of it, which does sometimes without context, not enough context, shows you the strike throughs and some of the recommendations. I'm going to pull up the Google Doc where we can actually track those and as a group, discuss them and accept them if we like them. So just to reiterate, none of these documents are altered outside of the group. There are simply changes proposed, and all of the actual work still occurs in the group when it comes to approving. So here we go. You should be seeing the document. So Sarah Garrett, our analyst, did a lot of work on this, and I may throw it to her sometimes for context, and I hope that's okay, Sarah. What we're looking at, the legality for those who are new or joining us, subbing in for another member, the legality of this hasn't changed. It can be expanded on thanks to the work we just heard about in the presentation. But really, we want to update this document to remain, the most helpful it can be. And there is some age on this. So I noticed that we have some suggestions to omit language, which if we want people to read it, we want it to have all the necessary information, but not a lot of dead wood as they call it. So we can go through these one by one. Sarah, is there anything you'd like to mention right off the bat?
The majority of what I was doing was just trying to trim it down, so there's not a lot of rewriting yet. So I can't promise all of these sentences still make perfect sense. But I was just trying to get it a little bit shorter, because it's very long, and I feel like that was a bit unnecessary.
This is Glenn.
Yeah.
I would suggest, I didn't see in the document reference to the particular KRS that was in the previous presentation. Did I miss it, or are we not at that point yet?
It has not. That specific one, KRS 423, was it? Has not been added. But that is something that we have on the record now. We can add in the most appropriate place. Electronic signatures, to get everyone up to speed again, they've become incredibly commonplace, and this document was drafted when that was not the case. So we can be a little bit less verbose in our guidance, because chances are people reading it have done an electronic signature to do any sort of purchase, or possibly even in their line of work, they've used them. So are we okay with deleting the first sentence that says they exist, essentially?
Do you need a motion or anything?
No.
Okay,
The only time we're going to vote on this is when we feel
the
like
end.
we have a good draft.
okay.
Yeah, I try to keep that to a minimum. I like current technology and procedures must meet the demand. So definitely unmute and say if you object to one of these recommendations, for sure. I have looked over this, but I'm not just accepting them willy-nilly. I have seen this before. So up-to-date technologies with current technology, I think that's good. This I believe has been done for people by statute, defining legal and evidentiary needs before choosing an electronic signature application. That is also sort of preceding any sort of usage of it. And it's fairly implied, I think, that you're going to do that. So does anyone want to leave that verbiage in? We are trimming these out so we can possibly add more helpful stuff in. And then possibly policies for preserving signatures adopted by each agency will ensure consistent practice across the organization. I don't know if we're going to recommend every agency have their own specific electronic signature policy. We do recommend that for some things like social media management and everything, but I don't know, since a lot of us, I mean, in state government, I can say we use DocuSign, we use Adobe. That's about it, just for transactional state business. So do we want to, are we okay with taking this out, indicating that people should have their own policy, or is that also a given?
I think it's pretty much a given at this point, because that's going to make people question that. Why don't we have a policy when I think social norms are pretty much the policy at this point?
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you. Again, the functions of the signature, this is all good information and should not go anywhere, I don't think. We can make sure that we may have done this already, and apologize if we have. Confirm that this is still what the Bar Association is putting forward, to confirm the credit for these functions.
We might want to also verify whether it's an international practice, if we can.
Yeah.
It sounds like Kentucky is getting into that realm of certifying documents or for use outside the United States. So.
Yep, I made a note of that, and it'll be in the minutes, so we can look into that for sure. The definition. A little more legwork will need to be done. This is very general under types of electronic signature technologies, but we can still do an assessment and a little research to confirm that the most widely used ones are described here. I know it looks like we're pointing to kits, and that is what we always like to point to for state government usage. So we can possibly even link to kits here where we're discussing the types, which kits would then click on that would take you to the acceptable choices that you have in state government. We'll have to clarify. Yeah, agencies should make sure that the electronic signature technology is interoperable with other software applications. Should that really be on the agency who adopts an approved e-signature platform? I'm not sure. I don't think so. So I get that these are a bit dated.
Perhaps COT could update us on how do they
evaluate,
authorize and evaluate the e-signature software. And are there just a list of approved ones, or more like what Secretary of State is doing, where they interact individually with the agency to test how it's implemented?
I don't want to put any COT members on the spot. If you happen to know how it's formulated, evaluated, chosen for kits, that's fine. Otherwise, we can discuss outside of the meeting. But if the Lynn, if you could reach out to the folks who do that, if you're not involved, that would be appreciated.
Well, I know requests for additions to kits go through like a committee for approval. And there's people from, I think, every office within COT that are a part of that committee. But I don't know specifically how security may be doing stuff in COT, but I can follow up.
Okay. That would be appreciated, and we could even possibly under issues to consider, I'm all for linking to kits, as I already said, and then giving just in a nutshell how it's, without going into extreme detail, sort of the process, a very abbreviated form of how it's evaluated.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Tracy Burgess, COT also.
Yes.
The original format of how kits was laid all out has changed, where now it's just a PDF of a kits report that has just the information. So it may not be like in the past where you could link to a specific section.
Okay. Well, at the same time, we can link to where kits can be found and maybe give the, is there a unique number still for each?
In some cases, yes, although some have changed in some of the stuff we're going to go into a little bit later, where there's a hyperlink that references cloud computing.
Okay.
And I was just going to touch on it then.
So at minimum, we can link to the PDF of kits and people can locate the digital.
Yeah, and I'll put the link for that in the chat session.
Are we okay with deleting what was marked here? It's a big chunk, but it's also explaining, maybe over explaining, and also putting a little more on the agency where it's not really their choice. I'm thinking of any random executive branch agency who is not involved in the selection or vetting. At minimum, it needs to be rewritten, but I think it could be taken out and we could expand on the issues section with what we've discussed already. So is anyone in favor? This is not a vote of taking this section out.
I appreciate the need to shorten and clarify things. Are we sure that the most important criteria, and then using a system and application that meet those criteria should give primarily its legal concerns, since signatures are primarily that whole sentence are primarily may need to, I'm not sure I agree with completely, given the presentation that was.
Oh, okay. Yes, I see.
I assume this is the kind of the summary of what we're deleting. Which,
yes,
the process I think is a good one. I just want to make sure that they're accurate. Should also reflect concern such as technology. Primarily for evidentiary purpose. I'm not sure I would agree with that. Since there are legal, historical.
yeah, there are a
whole bunch of other ones. And I guess, I don't know, somebody, Secretary of State's office might want to weigh in here, but I would guess that it's not even primarily evidential. It's a combination of things.
Yeah, it is transactional. It is what drives business forward.
So what this sentence, I don't know if that was a insert. I guess it's not an insert. It's what was in the original document.
It was in there originally and should be rewritten, but probably not taken out. I think we could, and with some input, we wanted to have the presentation, you know, while we were working on this, and it worked out perfectly in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can take some of what we know now and rewrite that portion, because I also disagree with the primarily for evidence. That is simply not.
Well, this section is supposed to be about issues, and that paragraph doesn't even describe an issue. So it should either be rewritten and moved or just removed entirely.
Good point.
Okay.
The one thing that I didn't see is, I mean, there's the statement about audit procedures. Since I do IT audits now, some regulatory entities have specific requirements. Like the IRS has specific requirements when it comes to any kind of signature dealing with the FTI information. So that is an issue. It's like, what kind of regulatory requirements does the agency fall under?
Yeah, that sounds like it's federal. I mean,
well, it can be federal, but there's There's so many audits that go on that most of us don't even realize.
That could certainly be added to, and even under issues to consider, it could be added to be mindful, like an agency must make sure that their allotted, their adopted technology meets those criteria, as well as transactional criteria for interoperating within state agencies, something like that. That's definitely, I think that would be a good add.
And mentioning the authentic part, or the is beyond evidence, is that it has to be authentic. I don't see anywhere they're mentioning authenticity, but
I think we can expand on the issues section quite a bit, just to make the reader aware of the pitfalls, and at minimum what needs to be present, like the certificates.
Right.
Yeah, and this is just speaking for our office, Derek. Yes, John's presentation, but that was a very specific thing with notaries and e-apostilles. But we also accept electronic signatures of somebody doing a business filing. That's still considered an electronic filing, and we don't actually certify that. We just, by statute, take it on its face. So I'm not sure how deep we want to go on some of these things, because a lot of times the statute just says as long as both agencies agree or both parties agree, then you can accept a electronic signature.
Yep. Oh yeah, with even the /S/ that is used pretty widely too, without any special. It's less secure. It can be faked, but as long as the intention is clear, if it's for like a minor internal thing, I've seen that used quite a bit. So we can make folks aware that this is for reference for people who do use it, but for people who have questions about it or are not familiar with it. So we can say, yes, we can get granular enough to say, like, the classic /S/ alone could constitute that, but if you are wanting to be more secure, you could do go with DocuSign, which does generate a certificate, or Adobe Sign, which does have metadata about when it was signed and if it is altered, I believe. So these are all things we could put, and hopefully KDLA has been on a hiring spree, and I've been on an interview panel spree. So I've had not a lot of time for a few things, but I'm done with that now. So I should have time, but after this meeting, before our August meeting, to work on the verbiage a bit, and some of these things we've been discussing adding. So I hope by our next meeting we're taking away a lot of the outdated or just overly verbose, and we're going to be adding in. So we should have more to discuss next meeting, and rewriting this section in particular. Do we want to leave this marked up section for now, or does anyone want to go ahead and remove it and then just build on what we've been discussing?
I think that it could be removed and then built on. It does seem to be kind of verbose and could be explained easier, but it's going to need some work. Kudos to Sarah for identifying the things that are
Yes.
needed to be taken out.
And everyone is going to have the draft if you want to go back to it. This is the live one I'm working on, so I want to make sure everyone agrees. But you always will have the previous drafts to consult as we go forward, writing it or suggesting verbiage. So unless anyone's opposed, I'm going to go ahead and accept this change. Very similarly, suggestions for the use of it. In this day, I mean, an age where we're all using them perhaps weekly or daily. I don't know if this is exactly necessary either. It's all kind of pre-assumed that you've done this stuff. If you gave this a read, so yeah. Does anyone?
I don't think we need to convince anyone to use electronic signatures at this point, which is why I wanted to remove it.
I'm just very hesitant to delete everything without hearing anyone who objects. I just want to make sure no one objects. Okay, I'll go ahead and remove this. Legal framework. In our looking into this document, we realize that the legality hasn't really changed at all. We're just trying to give this a current feel and offer the most current information. This is another document we can, when there is a major change, we can circle back and edit it and get it back out there, similar to our guidelines. I'd like to keep all of these in the mix, as it were, going forward, so we don't end up with any extra dated information out there. So the Bar Association, Sarah, is this a link to what used to link up there? I did not.
Yeah, these are corrected links. I think that one of them maybe doesn't even exist anymore, but I would have noted that. So these are yeah, links that should still take you to the same discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, the only change I see on those is the header information for like the NARA there, where it's 2005. That document was finalized in 2003. When you open up the link about the document. So I don't know if the 5 got in there at the header there for the hyperlink.
I will fix that now, and then if we find that, I mean, a later edition or a later version didn't come out in 2005, whatever we're linking to, if it's 2003, we'll leave that there. I'll go ahead and replace these links, and we will check again before voting on this. There's obviously quite a bit of work to do still in additions to this, but we can we'll check these again to confirm that they work before it goes to commission. I assume we want commission approval.
And then on the next header there for the FIPS, it still has the 1863 June 2009 when it's actually should be 1865 February 2023.
So these are, this is an older document, so getting these new dates on there will strengthen the document and its usage, hopefully. Okay, and that's what we have got. Thank you all very much for suggestions. Oh, Glenn, you had it was for this one, correct? A recommended statement. You're muted. I'm sorry.
I can't remember whether it was this document or the cloud computing, but I wanted to make sure that the preservation element, and I think it was more for cloud computing, the preservation elements and dealing with KDLA was well stated. And I put it in the document, but I'm not absolutely clear that it got into the cloud computing document.
Yeah, it was sent. You sent it on the first. It was actually for this document, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Was it in the long-term storage, the section we took out, maybe?
Yeah, this is a good one for putting into the there's functions, there's types, issues to consider. I would put it here.
Yeah. Okay.
This is in no way like its final spot, but I'm going to insert it here just so you can all see it, for one thing.
Right. Digital signatures tend to have a lot of security around them.
Yes.
So if you're transferring it to KDLA, KDLA has to have access to all of those security items and identifiers or passwords or whatever you call it. So this is particularly problematic for e-signatures.
Yep.
One post note is if you scroll up just a bit to where it mentions 2370 of kits right there, where it talks about identifies 3 approved and recommended products. That list is expanded since the time of this. Because right now there's 6 different products listed as approved.
If we want it to last longer, we should probably just take the number out.
Yeah, probably so.
I think identifies approved and recommended products.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's a PDF and it's not exactly interactive, but I do want to link to it because I send people there regularly when they're asking for recommendations, which I can't, provide, but I can point them to Chris. So yeah, I think we'll probably have a couple links to it. And they make it very easy to amend, Chris, as well. Not the PDF, but the website the web page where you click to open up kits. They're right on that page, and the right hand side, I believe, is like add to kits or petition for an exception to kits. So it makes it very easy. And I believe I've said Chris once or twice. That's our human resources platform. But when I say that, I mean kids.
I also added in just a few lines of text we may want to add of referencing 4055 preservation of long-term records out of kits also, just to also give them additional information.
And the word transferred is misspelled, apparently. Down at the bottom of the issues to consider. There you go.
Yeah, and this could potentially be expanded on and as Tracy said, pointed back to the long-term preservation entry in kids.
Yeah, I didn't know if that would also be better suited, like up where we were mentioning 2370, because we're referring to government entities.
True. Let's see. I'm gonna make a suggestion here that we like to use Google Docs terminology to add that. I'm not gonna add it live, but we can add just as a note for when we're rewriting, adding what we've been talking about. We can do that then. Okay. So we have a lot that we were able to take out today. Thank you, Sarah. And then we will between meetings go in and add what we've discussed and re-add some of the verbiage, but not, probably not nearly as much as we took out. We'll see. We'll see how it shapes up. Any other comments at this stage? Anything you noticed, any errors? Thank you, Tracy, for being so on top of the headers and making sure everything is current. Okay. I think we have our work cut out for us for between meetings. If anyone would like access to this Google Doc, just email me and I'll send you the link to it so you can get on there and make suggestions for our meeting in August. So if there is nothing else, I'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is cloud computing. We are running a little short on time, which is not the worst problem to have because it means we've had a good meeting. But this is another dated document. Checking the chat real quick.
Yeah, I'm just putting in a link change for one of the hyperlinks for you.
Thank you. So we only have about 10 minutes. Sarah, you marked this one up quite a bit. Was this more or less the same intention of, obviously a lot of people are using cloud computing now. It's very common, whether they choose it or whether it's just what their IT has chosen for them. Everyone is using it. So are you working roughly in the same territory you were for the electronic signatures?
Yeah, this document was written in 2012 and basically explained what cloud computing was and positioned it as, hey, maybe you should try it. It's fun. And that's not the case anymore. Like you said, most of us don't have a choice. We're just given only one option, maybe two options for what we can use. So I think it'd be more helpful as a guide of how to, utilize what you are being given, more than just explaining what it is in general. So most of this is just removing over explanation of cloud computing, since we all use it day to day.
And this, it is the guidelines for records management. So we're going to focus on real concerns, some of which we may not have known about or had zeroed in on as well as we have now. So we can, I also think we can take a lot out and add a lot in of concerns that stem from known things to actual questions we've received. I mean, there's a lot of questions that come in regarding, we store our records in the cloud, but are they ours? Are they really deleted when we delete them? So yeah, we had even considered, when I brought this to your attention, like, is this even something the working group should have a guideline for, or best practice for? And we decided in the May meeting, yes. And in fact, we can get a lot more helpful and specific. And I believe we even discussed there are far more options in local government and their choices. And so there are a lot more pitfalls, honestly, in local government if they are free to shop for any vendor. So that could either be its own section, or I think we even talked about making another document, especially for people in that situation. So I'm still good with adding it to this or making a second local version. But
there is a bottom section about agencies dealing with contractors, which is more of that local records discussion.
And Derek, I would point out that it's not just local governments. Like, my office, Secretary of State, we're a non-consolidated agency, so we don't utilize COT. There's several agencies like that. So
that's true. I hear about local more. I don't hear from the non-consolidated ones as much, because they have their own IT and they're basically all able to do what they need to do. But I hear from local a lot, is what I'm saying. So okay, that's an important consideration. So maybe we could keep it one document. That's good reason to do so. So we can see a lot's been taken out. We're right up against the clock, and I don't know if we want to do that. So I am going to go ahead and say, now we have a clear mission with this. We can revisit it next time. I think it's too much to bite off right now. So so I'm probably going to move to the next agenda item, which is the agenda recommendations for next time. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to? It's pretty obvious what we'll discuss in the next meeting, these guidelines documents, but is there any other business you'd like to discuss in our August meeting? Okay. All right. Before we adjourn, I'd like to offer a special thanks to Jeremy and Jonna. It was very much appreciated, and we thank you for setting that up, and incredibly informative. So we'll look forward to getting the presentation via email. And with that said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 And I assume no one is opposed. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. This was an excellent meeting, and I look forward to seeing you all in August. August 7th is the date of our next meeting. Thank you again.
Bye.
Have a great holiday tomorrow.